Yeah, welcome everyone. Excited for another weekly Twitter space. Got some great speakers this time. As always, as usual. Um, some crazy stuff going on in the markets lately. Um, yeah, we're going to talk about it. Um, welcome to all the listeners. If you're here, be sure to drop your questions in the comments, and we'll get to them. Um, I'm Helix. I'm involved with growth at MetricsDAO for about 1 year now. I'm a bit of a non-techie, but a big believer of making data-driven decisions. So I'm more of an end user, and to that end, I love bringing this community together to connect and learn. And today we're going to learn about meme coins. So uh, meme coins, you're familiar with them. They're cryptocurrencies that are based or on some sort of comical or animated meme that are supported by enthusiastic community of online traders and followers. Um, and those coins might be a lot of fun, but they're also very risky. And there might be no or little intrinsic value. Um, Popular examples are Dogecoin, probably the most famous one, Shiba Inu, Floki, and more recently we've seen Wall Street Bets Coin, Wall Street Bets Baby, and most notably Pepe, the one we're talking about today. Um, so Pepe is tribute to Pepe the Frog, the internet meme. We all know and love him, of course. It launched about, I'm seeing different dates, but it should be April 14th, 15th, or 16th, around there. Um, it was at an all-time high on the 5th of May last week. It's been down since. I just checked before this event. The 24-hour trading volume is still a staggering 771 million US dollars. And the market cap at the same time was 463 million. So yeah, with that as a bit of a context, I'll introduce our speakers right now, or in fact, I'll let them introduce themselves. Um, so yeah, guys, please let everyone know a little bit of your general background and specifically your link to this topic.
I'll go introduce myself first. Hey guys, I'm Jack. I'm a data analyst and I'm the founder of Pine, which is a community of data analysts. And I did some data analysis on the swapping of the Pepe coin on Uniswap and like looking at the gas fees it was taking up and stuff like that. So I'm just here to share some of the data that I found.
I can go next. Just generally, I'm the co-founder of Lure, and basically what we do is we build a number of blockchain tools. But most related to this specifically is we have a really awesome user analytics platform that is powered by ChatGPT. So
I'll go next. Hey everyone, so I'm Tim. I'm a journalist at DL News, the media arm of DeFi Llama. And in recent weeks, I've been covering Pepe and looking at the data in some of my articles that I've published.
Hey guys, I can go next. So I'm data scientist, and actually I'm doing a lot of content creation recently in 2023, and I've also written a Dune dashboard on like meme stuff, and yeah, I also wrote some threads about Pepe and other meme coins, and I'm happy to discuss with you here.
Hey guys, I'm Alex. I run like a crypto prop trading operation, and yeah, broadly interested in a wide variety of topics. But last week, the main interest was Pepe and how much P&L was actually realized from this sort of phenomenon. And yeah, excited to talk about it.
Yes, so I'm Jones from the the letter. So our job here is to follow tracking wallet movement and especially smart money that who have gained a lot of profit from meme. So in the past week, I have been sharing a lot of data about the overall trend. For example, I see a tweet that MetricsDAO just shared here, and also I've been sharing a lot of smart money that gain a lot of profit from meme, so that people can follow and then gain profit from that.
All right. I guess yeah, that was everyone. All right, thanks for those introductions, guys. What I love about this space is that we try to bring together people who, did some data or did some research on the topics that we're doing. So I'll be very excited to, um, gain the insights that you guys have learned from doing your research and some of the metrics and figures you've come across. Um, First off, I think it's nice if we start this like wide. Apart from Pepe, like this topic in general, meme coins. What I found so fascinating personally is what's the appeal? What is it? Is it like, are people bored? Is it a certain cynicism? Um, I'm curious what you guys think it is. Why is this striking a nerve?
I'd love to start with just a single sentence, and that's for the most part, it's just like unregulated gambling, and people love to fucking gamble.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say that like
Yeah, I think I'd have to second that. I think I don't know, the way me and my friends talk about it, it's like they're like kind of PvP coins. Like you people who are into this know that there's no like inherent value, but they're just trying to see to sell to the next guy and who's the best at selling it to the next guy. So I think it's kind of a fun thing kind of going through that. That's kind of what I think these coins are all about.
On my side, I agree with what have been said. I also think that actually the great success of Pepe was also actually related to the market in general, because it came in at a moment that the other coins were not doing great, like everything was going down, and people are always looking for opportunities, to rotate where there is liquidity and where there are, and whenever there is a new project, there is excitement and all these things. And so I think this was also a factor that, an external factor that had an influence on the overall success of Pepe, I would say, and in memes in general, because there was nothing much more that you could trade other than memes during the last maybe 6-7 weeks.
yeah, I think like the timing of these kind of things is pretty particularly interesting. I feel like the common adage is that meme-driven pumps are usually like a top signal, and they usually come later. And I think the reason for that is because like majors pump first and then alts pump, and it takes like a few months. Like especially if you're not connected into the space, it takes a few months for like normal people to like realize that like cryptocurrencies are doing well. So even though it looks like right now for people that are plugged in that like, oh, it looks like market's about to roll over, momentum's slowing down, to like a lot of people from the outside, it looks like, oh, crypto's double up this year and like this new meme coin is exciting and it's like time to gamble, I guess.
Absolutely. I'd like to expand a bit on that and say something that I noticed in the data was you saw the move from, I guess, 20,000 to 30,000 on Bitcoin. There was a lot of shorting going on. Retail investors as a group, if you want to call them that, were mostly positioned short on the move up. And then when you hit 30,000, it's like Alex said, that's when people outside of crypto start noticing that these assets are going up a lot. Then they flood in, and then it kind of flips long. And now we've seen a decline since then, kind of retail traders getting the timing wrong, as they often do. And that's when Pepe just exploded. And I think that it couldn't have happened before then because there wasn't enough, outside new money, new interest from like people who are like casual investors who, they're not plugged into crypto 24/7, but there needs to be something there to bring them in. And then that's when you can get the meme coin madness that we've experienced over the last few weeks.
Okay, so people love gambling. It's also a bit of a timing thing. It's usually a top signal, but that's weird to people in crypto, I guess. At least it sounds weird to me because we all feel that we're in a bear market. Um, so what's up with that?
Yeah, I think it also has to do with, like you mentioned earlier, Felix, like
Oh.
sort of cynicism. Like especially new entrants, new money, like they don't want to trade old coins that have baggage that like I guess they're like competing against people who have a better understanding of the coin. They'd rather just trade something new. I guess Kobe said that like every generation tends to like sort of reject the Ponzi's created by like older generations and try to create one of their own, which explains like why Sui did so well too compared to Aptos, and like why like Pepe is doing so well versus like Shib and Doge.
I agree with Alex, and I would also add that yes, we are in a bear market, but we are also in a phase of a bear market where it's not really clear, actually, the when the bull market starts and when the bear market ends, and because if you look at the 4-year cycles or the time before the halvening, we are at a time where actually we could say maybe the bottom is in. Speculation, but still, we had a rally from 15K to 30K. So some people might believe that actually, okay, at least the worst of the bear market is over, and so maybe it's time to go more risk on, and that also means that speculating more Dijon plays, and as you said, rotation happens, and at the end, meme coins are maybe the last step of that. So I think in terms of cycle-wise, it also plays a role that it makes sense. So something like that maybe couldn't have happened last year, and we didn't see such moves. But now, 2023, we had a rally, and yeah, so maybe that's also a factor.
Yeah, I'll add something here. Twitter's being Twitter, so I couldn't actually hear what Alex said, so I might reiterate what he said, but it might be like a local top signal rather than like a full top signal. So like yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that like these things are usually a top signal, but they're not necessarily like a top signal of the top of the market. So it might just be that like we're in like a local top. That's kind of what I'm thinking about that.
I see. So, okay, we're going through these like cycles, and okay, right. What do you mean by local top signal actually?
Well, I mean, like Bitcoin pumped first, and then some of the alts followed, and then after some of the alts followed, the meme coins kind of shot up. So maybe after like large pumps in like the larger assets, um, the like some of the liquidity goes to these meme coins, and then the price of like Bitcoin or some of the bigger cryptocurrencies are going to go down for a little bit. It's kind of a sign that maybe the Bitcoin run is like slowing down for now, at least. That's kind of what it seems to me. Like a local top is just not the all-time top, but just the top in like these few months or something like that.
Right. I guess because like we're kind of running out of time because people are expecting the market to pump when we get close to the Bitcoin halving next year. So you can't really say that like it's going to be like a full blow off top now. 30K was the top, and we're going to go back into an extended bear market because sooner or later, um, the Bitcoin halving will creep up on you, and then people will start trying to front run that, and there will be more activity in the market. Or at least that's always what's happened in the past. So there's not much time left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I think this actually speaks to like an interesting point. I'm curious about what you guys think. I feel like historically, cryptocurrencies have been driven by like retail sort of flows and retail sort of mania. And this is the first cycle where like the pump from 19K to 30K in March was a lot less driven by retail than pumps of the past. Like for the longest time, a lot of crypto natives were like wondering who the fuck is like buying, especially like who's buying spot right now. I don't know if you guys saw the article yesterday coming out that said that like some UAE sheik who like was in charge of the sovereign like sort of asset funds of the royal family. It was like around $160 billion of a fund, and he also managed like another $1 trillion, sort of sovereign wealth fund. They're allocating into Bitcoin. They have allocated, and they are allocating into cryptocurrencies. So I feel like that could be like a good explanation for like who is buying spot during these times, especially like as a country who is might be cut off from the U.S. fiat system. I just want to look to hedge and diversify with a small percent of the portfolio. Um, so yeah, I typically think like halvenings are like a good coordination point for retail, and it's interesting to see like now we're getting institutional flows, like sort of sovereign flows on top of that with retail. So it's like a lot harder to predict like the ebbs and flows of these things that were typically driven by retail flow.
I agree, and I think it's this is maybe one of the reasons that people were talking about these super cycles, etc. Maybe last year, especially, or 2 years ago, because the first two cycles were actually just retail people and not a lot of institutions. But it's really surprising that, nevertheless, the 4-year cycle has been really perfectly actually working so far. If you look at the bottoms, if you look at the top. But I think, as you said, I think it's the game is becoming more and more complex. Until it's unvalidated, maybe we can't say that the halvening doesn't have an effect. But definitively, with the institutions coming, actually everything becomes more complex. Maybe the patterns that have worked in the past wouldn't work, or don't work anymore in the same way, at least. It's going to be interesting to observe, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, that being said, I'm still bullish on the halvening pump because I still think it's great for retail. But yeah, it's just cool to see like other reasons too. Like right now we're seeing correlation between like Bitcoin with not just tech and risk as we've seen in like 2021, 2022, but like we're also seeing correlation with gold. So like a lot of times when gold is up but risk is down, equities are down, like we'll see Bitcoin pump too. So it's kind of like not as straightforward of an asset class anymore now that it's got that gold and sort of macro driven correlation, which is like really interesting to see, and it also changes it up for a lot of traders who've gotten used to the 21, 22 regimes.
Yeah, and actually, it's also interesting because if you look at it fundamentally, also some banks are failing in the U.S. Some people are saying that the Fed will print a lot of money. All of this is bullish for the Bitcoin. Halvening is coming, very bullish for Bitcoin. So there are a lot of actually bullish factors for Bitcoin, both fundamentally in terms of the mechanics of the cycles and the halvening and all these things. So yeah, I think it's good for all of us. And it's interesting. I can't see actually a lot of bearish, although macro is still bearish, but there are also some counterpoint like bullish factors for crypto and Bitcoin, especially as I said, banks failing, all these things. It's actually hard to weight these things because a lot of when you look at different economical and macro factors, you see a lot of bearishness. Like if you read the content creators who are writing on macro, it's very, very bearish actually what they are writing. But at the same time, in crypto, as you said, correlations maybe are decreasing with some of these asset classes. So it's hard to actually weight in all these things. But on my side, I think it's pretty bullish, especially if one has a bit longer time frame. Is very bullish, I would say.
Interesting. Is that also why we're seeing this inflow of institutional or sovereign money, as Alex pointed out? which was at the same time kind of surprising to me because there's also a bit of a, well, actually quite a crypto crackdown going on, especially in the US, which some people actually say, is being driven by other um, parties or like the financial players being in a tight spot.
On my side, maybe you guys have other data, but on my side, I'm not really sure that we can say institutions are back or they are investing heavily on Bitcoin and crypto. Maybe as Alex pointed out, there are a few exceptions here and there with some like either funds or institutions putting some money, but I wouldn't say the data suggests, if you look at the volume, for example, the volume is generally pretty low at the moment. You're not seeing actually announcements of big banks, etc. I mean, there is not a trend that's a big liquidity from institutions is coming. That's what I've seen, but I'm really curious to hear what others have observed about that.
For me, like, I feel like it is the beginning of the end of the sort of English-speaking or US-centric crypto cycles. I think a lot of these institutions, like let's say, Middle East adjacent or East Asian adjacent, they don't typically like announce their plans or their buying to like Twitter, which is typically like have been the source of where the flows are coming from. So it's hard. It's like I guess as a U.S. or English-based trader, like I'm very much in the dark about who's buying and who's selling. But I'm pretty confident, not pretty confident, but like I have a hunch that it's coming from these people that like aren't typically plugged in to the crypto ecosystem, which makes it like hard to guess when they're coming and like what motivates them. And as Jack was saying earlier, like this could be a local top signal. I very much agree, like especially given the conditions of liquidity right now, like $40 million of spot can easily move Bitcoin like 1%, whereas let's say last year it would take closer to 100, 120. So we very well could just wake up to like a giant spot TWAP from the UAE, just like we saw before. And I don't think like the Emiratis are just going to let Bitcoin fall back down to 23K or something and just embarrass the royal family like that. So I do think like there are a lot of unspoken reasons of like hidden demand shocks that are in the future that we should all be wary of.
Interesting. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's partly, I think, like a cultural difference. Like more Eastern cultures, also like the way they wage war on the U.S. is like very much keeping things in the dark, moving silently. And then there's of course like the language barrier, and like people are not on crypto Twitter and just announcing everything like you wouldn't know. Interesting. Changing gears a bit. Let's talk a bit more about Pepe specifically. Um, we got a couple of few directions we could take it, but I'm also just curious to maybe just throw an open question out there and just ask you guys what you specifically researched, what you found out, and what was like most interesting or most shocking or like an eye opener, you name it.
Yeah, I can start off here. So I looked specifically at like the Uniswap pools of Pepe, and one thing that I found really interesting is that the buy volume of Pepe on the pools was like much larger than the sell volume on the pools. And it kind of shows that the people who are selling Pepe weren't actually selling it into the pool, but they were providing liquidity into the pool to sell their Pepe rather than directly selling it into the pool, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then another thing that I found from the data that I thought was pretty interesting was like basically all of the volume bought of the Pepe token was, I guess it's kind of obvious, but like users that held like a very tiny amount of the token, and like none of the people who were held any amount of the token that wasn't a very small amount were buying it out of these liquidity pools. And then I guess the last thing that I kind of found interesting, like when I broke down the holders, is I found like the top like 90 holders of this token hold like 55% of it. And I think like the top like 700 hold like 80% of it. So those are a few interesting things I found.
I mean, that brings up one question that's been lingering on my mind. It's like, okay, who are these top holders? Who are these people who were early? Because fortunes have already been made. Like, uh, people's lives have been changed, but who are like these people who are early, and how do they know?
I think I would say generally that there are maybe three categories of people, talking about PEPE, but also about any other kind of meme coin or any kind of like small cap. Usually you have the insiders, so the founders, their friends, etc. And this is one category, and usually they are among the like logically the largest holders of the token. Then you have another category which is completely independent. It's just people who are actively looking into, maybe they're onto DEX screener and they're looking actually what's new, what is have a like trending volume, and they're looking actually to trade some of these assets that are very fresh because that's their style of trading, and they don't care any about any specific project. They're just looking about some patterns. Yeah, within they each have their own trading style, usually looking for volume and liquidity. And then actually you have some people who are on Twitter, I would say, who are maybe following like who is tweeting about what's trending on Twitter, and then actually this is another category of people. So talking about PEPE, but also other meme coins, I think that's the pattern. So the first category is like really that's where is you need to know them because that's where risks are if they want to dump the tokens, etc. And then you have actually some really legit people who are just trying to make money out of these tokens, I would say.
Yeah, I want to add something else here too. Like even though that the market cap of this Pepe coin has gone to like $1 billion at one point or something like that, that's like nowhere near the amount of like liquidity there is for the token. So even though like on paper a lot of these people have like maybe like tens or hundreds of millions of dollars worth of this token, it's not actually worth that. And if any of these like large holders actually tried to sell, they probably couldn't cash out like, I don't know, even 1/10 of what their paper value is like right now or at the peak.
Yeah, totally. I actually think it brings up a really interesting philosophical point about the world and how we value all of our assets. Like you mentioned, if all the Pepe sellers tried to sell, they would only get maybe 1/10 of their value out, which is like pretty bad. But also, it's like not unique to only meme coins. Like this exists for every single asset, not just Bitcoin, but also like broader asset classes. So like if you want to, like let's say the real estate market, for example, like the real estate market might be worth like a few $100 trillion, but like if everyone tried to sell their house at the same time, then there's no way we could realize like a few $100 trillion of value out of that. So it goes to show that like price is very relative compared to liquidity and time. If the amount of sellers overruns the amount of liquidity, it can very easily tank the price by a ton, even though like none of the fundamental values of the house have changed. And I think this like also speaks a lot about meme coins.
How does that relate to meme coins? Because I'm following I'm following what you're saying. So the house, it still has an intrinsic value, even though, like, regardless of what like the market is doing, and like everybody's trying to take their liquidity out at the same time. But this is like an asset that has no intrinsic value, or how does that relate to that?
Yeah, I think it relates to it in the sense that like you should view price not as an absolute, but as a relative. So like when you say Pepe is $1.7 billion of market cap, that isn't really just, you can't compare it to like a $1.7 billion market cap for anything else, because like all that 1.7 billion is representing is like oh, demand is much greater than supply at this point in time by this amount. And that number can be really skewed by the amount of liquidity that's provided in the pool. Like the more liquidity is provided, the more that number like actually reflects reality compared to other assets.
I see. Okay, cool. Thank you for clearing that up. Okay, going back to those holders, right? They're like founders and friends, then they're the active lookers, then they're basically like the people who come later who just follow the narratives that they see on Twitter, roughly summarized. Okay, then the next question becomes like, will there be a rug? Or regardless of, a rug, is it gonna implode? Probably yes, right? Like, and if so, how and why? And are we already seeing things in the data that might reflect that? Are there like large holders who have dumped, or are whales trying to move the price in other ways? Any observations on that front?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So I can start. Actually, it's interesting because on my side, I discovered about PEPE pretty early, like it was 18th of April, and I tweeted about it. And actually, I completely ignored it. I mean, I didn't trade it. The reason being that, as you said, usually, so how the tokens work usually, like in good projects, is that you have actually a good, like some tokenomics and then some vesting schedules for the project founders, etc. And you know that actually they cannot sell immediately. Some tokens are locked, etc. But that's not at all the case with Memecoin. So usually the entire supply is like available and is circulating, and then they have a very, very large allocation of that. And actually it's just about when and if the founders decide to actually dump their tokens. And so that's why it's extremely risky because, we have seen a lot of meme coins recently that some of them, like they go live and after 4 hours, just with a little liquidity, they dump the token, it goes to zero. And it's actually, you have zero protection against that. And it's just the will of the founder and the team, actually, what they want to do. Now, in the case of PEPE, it turned out that they didn't do that, and the project went well, and and that's what attracted a lot more people. But still, they have these tokens, and so that's always a risk. Like, okay, if you're early, then you're protected, maybe because you can sell to those that come later. But there is always this risk that founders at any time they can dump all their tokens, and Alex mentioned about liquidity, and then actually you're with your worthless tokens that you can't sell. So that's why it's a very risky place, but I'm eager to hear what others think about that. Like, is it like a big part of it is like the founders, or do you think that you can also trade it in other ways and be profitable?
Yeah, I'll add my thoughts. I think if the founders sell, then it's like definitely going to like drop like rapidly. But I think another kind of bad sign for tokens like this is usually when they get listed on like centralized exchanges and they open up perpetuals on them, because when they start allowing people to short the token, now people who don't actually own the token can start shorting the token, which like adds a whole nother way for the token to go down. Which I think is like the general trend of a lot of these tokens, is when like these tokens that don't have a lot of value get listed on centralized exchanges, it allows people to just start shorting the hell out of them. And since they don't really have any value anyways, that really affects the price a lot. So that's like another thing that to like watch out for. And I think PEPE's been listed on like a handful of centralized exchanges. And I'm looking at KuCoin right now, and like since it was listed on KuCoin, it's like been down only. So like it's definitely like something to look out for as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, they asked Binance when it was listed to not be listed on the futures, on Binance futures, because they knew actually what's going to come and people will short. And other projects have also asked in the past to not be listed on the Binance futures, because there is always the risk that some people will start shorting the project, especially those who have no fundamentals. So yeah, that's a very good observation.
Yeah, I think that's Jackie mentioned like a really cool inefficiency in the meme coin market. I think typically for regular coins, like when you get listed as a perp on Binance or any other exchange by Bit, it typically is bullish because like it allows longs to leverage up. But I think like the true dynamic for meme coins is if something gets listed as a perp, like there will be more short people on leverage than longs. So it is a great like sort of time to sell your meme coin as soon as it gets listed, depending on the certain environment. But like in this current environment, I think that's true.
And I think that there is also an influence about when the project was initially listed. For example, I'm thinking about Step N, GMT. That was a very good project that actually started, it went live directly on Binance. It wasn't listed on other exchanges or decentralized exchanges. So, and it went directly live on Binance Perps, and actually did very well initially in the first 2 months. But when there is a token that goes live first in a decentralized exchange and it has gone up like 100x, and then it goes on a centralized exchange perpetual future, then yeah, people who own it for sure they're gonna sell, and then some people say, okay, that's already too much for a project that has no fundamentals, so let's short it. And so I think that also plays a role on when it was listed and where initially.
Okay, interesting. So actually, when I was following along, and when it was listed on Binance, it was like, Twitter was on fire again, and I think the price shot up. But you guys are actually saying that's actually kind of bearish.
I think it depends on the sentiment of the coin. I think with Pepe, like it already hit like 1.5 billion or something, and like everyone, at least a lot of money I knew was like looking to short it, like looking for an efficient reason why. So in cases like that, where it like enables shorters to come in and basically like steal the unrealized P&L of longs, it can be quite bearish.
I see, I see. Okay, interesting. Um, I think Cario mentioned that so far the founders seem to be holding on to their holdings. Um, I'm curious if anyone has seen any data on like large like dumpings from actors.
I'm looking. I don't have any information on what the buying and selling on the centralized exchanges it was listed on, but like, to me, it doesn't look like there's any like large dumping of the Pepe coin on any of the like decentralized exchanges from the large holders.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, I want to move on to the next topic here. Um, I'm wondering also, what does this mean for Ethereum? Their gas burn has gone up by a lot. There's also the idea that stuff like this is good for the space in the sense that it, draws in a lot of attention from retail, curious people, casual traders, and they want to look into crypto, Ethereum, other blockchains maybe. What do you guys make of that?
Uh, one thing I have to say is I think it's like overall like really good like for the chain to just have more activity and like for ETH holders that the price is gonna like there's just gonna be more ETH burn. But I do think it's kind of concerning for what's gonna happen in the next bull run, if the price of gas fees were like anywhere between like $30 and $200 now, like imagine if we like 10x the number of users on Ethereum, like what the gas fees could be like in the next bull run or something like that. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
I also think that this is it was really interesting because we are in a kind of bear market scenario, and the rest of the market, if you ignore memes, is not that they are doing very well in terms of price performance or in terms of volume. So actually, all these gas fees, we could somehow say that is just driven by these meme coins. It's not NFTs. It's not all other projects. It's not general activity of on chain. Is just actually a lot of people trading meme coins, and I think that raises concerns about the scalability in terms of gas fees. It was already like $100 around and more. So well, on the positive side, there is actually on Ethereum the proto dank sharding actually upgrade EIP 4844 that will be coming the next month, that will address actually gas fees, and this is good. It also shows actually the necessity of layer 2s for Ethereum, Arbitrum, etc., that have a lot like much lower gas fees. But what we are seeing now in bull market with a lot of new other players and in general a lot more activity trading, obviously it will not be acceptable to have these gas fees. So solutions are being like devs are working on this proto dank sharding. I'm looking forward to it to see actually how it's going to affect gas prices. But I think it's going to help a lot with that.
Yeah, Jack and Corio, you touched on something that has been a question of mine, and I feel maybe it's a stupid question, so I feel kind of weird asking it, but I want to know why, like, isn't it possible to trade PEPE on L2s? And I guess the answer is no, but then the question is why? Why, like,
Well,
yeah.
it is possible to trade them on L2s. It's just like there's no like large liquidity pools on layer 2s, and it's kind of hard for like large liquidity pools to start on layer 2s because there's not a bunch of like there's just so much money sitting on Ethereum to be spent on the stuff. More of a thing about convenience, and like people who are like trading meme coins aren't. Well, I don't know. I won't do a broad assumption, but like I feel like convenience plays into a lot of people just buying the token. Like I doubt somebody's gonna like bridge over to like start a liquidity pool and do that. And then yeah, I don't know. That's what I think. And also the fee stuff makes me a little bit bullish on Solana, but that's my own opinion.
On my side, I think that actually it also depends a lot on the founders when they initially launched the token. So if they had launched initially on Arbitrum, for example, and only there, then because there is also a lot of liquidity on Arbitrum, a lot. So they could have launched there and people would have reached those who were not on Arbitrum, and actually gas fees would have been lower. But that was their decision. Maybe it's easier to launch an ERC20 token on Ethereum, technically speaking, rather than Arbitrum. But yeah, it really depends actually. You have projects that are launching on Arbitrum meme coins or not, and yeah, there is no issue of gas fees actually.
In general,
Okay.
is it okay if I chime in? Yeah,
Yeah,
in
of course,
general, I
please do.
think the issue of like gas fees on Ethereum is a big double-edged sword. And we saw that, and obviously in the last bull market, you get a lot of people using Ethereum, but then it prices a lot of people out at the same time. And it's quite paradoxical for a lot of people that like, oh, chain is unusable, but the reason it's unusable is because so many people are using it. Ultimately, what we saw in the last bull market was the rise of layer ones, and like you mentioned, Solana went from like $30 to like 250. Crazy Solana season. I think that, you know, when the next bull market comes around, whenever that might be, it's going to be L2s that take up the mantle there. It just seems logical that, like, if Solana did well because of that in the previous bull market, then L2s are just a better version of that. And I say that because instead of having to buy Solana, a completely new token, on the chain that doesn't initially have bridges, you've now got these layer 2s, and they use the same token for gas. The bridges are already there. And there's, like you mentioned, someone mentioned, there's a lot of liquidity already on Arbitrum as well. So everything's set up for people to move there. It's just the conditions, I think, need to get bad enough for people to seriously consider it. And that happened like August 2021 last time. Gas fees were astronomical, from like, I guess like February onwards in 2021. So it took a few months for people to wake up, but they eventually did. So I imagine something similar will happen.
Jack, is that also why you mentioned you thought it might be bullish for Solana?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of cut out there, but I was thinking is that the high gas fees on Ethereum, like if we're gonna onboard a ton of new users in the next bull run, then like it's not like people are bridging from Ethereum to Solana. People are just joining the crypto sphere. So I think that there'll probably be a ton of people like using all sorts of stuff, but I don't know. I think there is kind of room for other L1s. And I think the Ethereum is going to exacerbate this a lot. And I think also they're going to push up the gas fees on the layer 2s. Like I remember using Polygon the other day, and I was, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, and I paid like $5 for gas fees. So it's like these EVM chains just have a problem with gas fees, like no matter what. Like if you jam pack as many people that are on Ethereum onto like a layer 2, the gas fees are just going to fly up just as hard. So that's why I'm kind of bullish on other L1s, including Solana, because of this.
I think that's a really good point. And I've noticed this as well, like Arbitrum gas fees have gone up a lot over the last few weeks. I guess we just got to wait and see. Is it EIP 4488? Correct me if I'm wrong, someone. The one that's going to cut L2 gas fees. We just need to see how much of an impact that will make when it finally ships, I guess. I'm optimistic, but I think you make a very good point that Solana's fees are microscopic, even compared to Ethereum L2s.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of factors when comparing blockchains. Certainly, Solana has a lower gas fees, but compared to Ethereum, but they also have they have been their blockchain has been halted many times in the past, and they have like some kind of more centralization problems. So I think we all agree that no blockchain is perfect. They all like optimize for different things. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see actually between Ethereum L2s like Optimism, Arbitrum, ZK, and alternative L1s like Solana, Binance Smart Chain, etc. What will happen in the next bull market in terms of adoption, in terms of users, in terms of dApps and ecosystem liquidity. For now, we are not seeing actually. We are seeing a real increase in TVL and in usage and adoption in layer 2s. Is not the pattern we are seeing on Solana or any other kind of L1s. I'm excluding here the very new L1s, Sui, Say, etc., which we don't have a lot of data. But if you talk about existing, established layer 1s, actually most of them, they are not doing really good in terms of ecosystem liquidity, although they have low gas fees. Because you have to remember that low gas fees is just one thing. You need actually an entire ecosystem. You want to use dApps, you want to buy the tokens on the newly listed tokens, and a lot of the newly listed tokens, for example, if you look at the last 3 months, there are a lot of them on on Arbitrum, for example. You don't see a lot of new tokens actually on Solana. I did an analysis on that a few weeks ago. So yes, gas fees are low on Solana and other chains, but you have to see actually if people are actually, how are people using it. And for example, if you look at, for example, Tron or Binance Smart Chain, they have very low gas fees, but people are just using them to transfer money, etc. And there is not a lot of activity going on in terms of, new projects, dApps, developments, TVL. is just a medium of payment, which is very convenient because it's fast and you don't pay a lot of gas fees, and people don't care that it's centralized or not, because it just solves the problem of paying low gas fees. However, if you want to consider the entire image and look at all the parameters, I think for now at least we can say that layer 2s are doing much better than alternative ones, in my opinion at least.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that they're kind of doing better, but at least on the decentralization front, like all these layer 2s are run on centralized sequencers, so it's not like they're not really like decentralized in the same way that Ethereum is. So I don't know, but I'm 100% with you. It's basically 100% on the community and the developers, and wherever the developers are, that's where the success will be.
Yeah, I agree with you on centralized actually sequencers. They are also not perfect. Let's say also that L2s are not perfect neither. So it's going to be interesting. Let's see what's going to happen in the next 2 years. It's actually a real battle, especially now that we have some new layer 1s, Aptos, Sui, Sei, Berachain, and maybe they're bringing something new. So let's see actually how this will all evolve. Certainly there is, as I said initially, there is each of them are trying to optimize on something different, but at the end technology is one thing, but you also you need adoption. Actually what we can learn maybe from PEPE is that community is everything, right? Because you can have no intrinsic value, but with a good community, we have learned from NFTs and from meme coins that community is very important in crypto at least. And so we can see that although you can have like a good chain in terms of technology, even decentralization and everything, if you don't have users, if people are not joining, if you don't have new liquidity, if people are not locking their money, then this is not an ecosystem that will last for a long time, I would say, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, let's see what the next bull market brings in terms of alt L1s versus L2s. I have one remaining question. I think it was Alex. You post something about PEPE and MEV bots and just-in-time liquidity. Could you reiterate what you were saying and expand on it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I didn't do too deep of a dive into that. I saw a really cool thread that you guys might have also seen about why Jared from Subway is doing so well, and it basically said that well he does have like some optimizations that help him, but the main thing was that he's willing to take on risk in meme coins, whereas all the other MEV bots they want to be denominated solely in stablecoin. Jared is very comfortable like holding the meme coin over a long period of time, and this lets him get a lot of opportunity that like other people aren't competing for, which I thought was really cool because like we're seeing this move in a lot of MEV bots is like the MEV bots of old were only comfortable taking on basically no risk. They wanted to be completely hedged. They would only take on atomic swaps, and they just didn't know how to evaluate like longer term risks. But as like things get more competitive, and in order to reduce or increase your margins, like a lot of MEV bots are getting better at like what they call stat arb, or just taking on longer term risk that is still like plus EV, just like a lower sort of sharp, higher variance type of holding. And I think Jared is like a really cool example of someone doing that. He does lose a lot because as soon as a contract is listed, his contract will approve, the contract for spending, and it'll actually buy up a little bit of the token, so that he's able to, arb both sides. And when the token, or if the token rugs, then like obviously he's going to lose from that. So it's not like a guaranteed play, but in aggregate, it's been working out pretty well for him. So I thought that was a really interesting sort of tidbit on the MEV sort of dynamics going on in the meme coin ecosystem.
Very interesting, Alex. I'm very curious. Since you looked into that, What do you think is the evolution of that? Because Jared actually showed that I think he's by far the most profitable person on PEPE in general, not talking about the project insiders, but he made like more than 2 million out of PEPE with his bot. Do you think that now this is like is going to encourage new players to spend more time on MEV and MEV and are we going to see a lot more bots trading in the near future or in the long-term future compared to like persons? What do you think?
I'm not sure Alex got that. Maybe.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute.
Oh.
I was gonna say, like, I think it'll definitely shift the meta of existing MEV players. I think, like, in the ETH pools especially, the biggest players are like Symbolic Capital and like Wintermute before they shut off their block building. Those types of people don't really dabble in meme coins, but like if the on-chain activity stays this high, I can totally see them diverting more of their resources into how to systematically trade these coins and like compete with Jared for this money. And I guess I see more people competing in meme coins, not just like the hobbyist MEV people like you mentioned, but also even the institutional players.
Yeah, with the institutions, liquidity is a problem because they have a lot of liquidity, and there is not a lot of liquidity in, at least in meme coins or generally in the small caps. So I think they're gonna invest in MEV for sure, but actually, yeah, they have fewer options compared to somebody like Jared because they have a lot of money and yeah, they're restrained by that. I think.
Yeah, it's quite easy for them to, like, as soon as they can like backtest like what makes a successful project, like things like, oh, is the liquidity locked, is the distribution fair, like is there enough in the pool, things like that. And then as soon as the token launches, they can be the first one to buy it, so they can't actually lose that much money if they do. And if they do this for every single coin before it gets launched, then like an expectation, assuming the meme coin craze continues, like they can actually, it's a pretty good risk reward play, I think, for them to do.
Yeah, that's interesting because well, not talking about MEV now, but I was recently, like yesterday, I was looking at the number of like newly launched tokens on the screener, and actually it's crazy. Like I saw like around 200 tokens just launching like during 8 hours just yesterday. Okay, it's probably because of the meme like narrative now, but still, this is a lot of tokens. So if you have just a strategy that is just buying anything that's listed, then I'm not sure how actually it can be super profitable. Sure, some of them they will do 10x, but a lot of them rocked, a lot of them have no liquidity. So yeah, it's not that straightforward actually to implement something like that, I would say, because of the sheer number of newly launched tokens every day.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to do some pretty heavy sort of back testing and like feature selection to like
Yeah,
find a good.
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a cool project to work on if any of you guys are interested.
Yeah. I would be interested in that. Cool.
Well, maybe we can get some people together after this space if people want to collaborate on anything. It's quite technical topic, MEV bots, to me at least. But I found it very interesting to hear that there's still lots of developments going on that front. And maybe it could be a cool idea to do a Twitter space on MEV bots sometimes, or like just-in-time liquidity, or like both of them.
If
All
you
right.
can invite Jared on the space, I will definitely join as a listener.
Okay. Sounds like a deal.
Cool.
maybe we can have
Let's
you
do
on
it.
as speaker as well. We'll see. Yeah, maybe I don't know him. Sounds like Alex does. Alex, maybe I'll get in touch with you afterwards.
I don't know. He's very super shadowy. Yeah, I don't think anyone.
There are like voice transformers on Twitter Space, actually. But I hear you. That just comes with the terrain of Web3. It's all good. We're a little bit over the hour. So yeah, I want to wrap it up. Very interesting talk. I think it was very cool to get everyone together and just like it flowed pretty naturally, and I think we covered a lot of different topics. Mm, yeah, before we close it out, I want to give you guys, the speakers, an opportunity to tell the crowd what you're doing, what you're working on, where to find you, stuff like that.
I'll jump in if no one else is ready yet. So yeah, I'd like to say check out DL News. I'm covering the hottest topics in DeFi every week. And if you are producing data and you see anything that you think is newsworthy, just reach out to me. My DMs are always open. Always looking for new data sources and stuff like that. And yeah, just be sure to check us out. Give us a follow on Twitter. Thanks.
Yeah. I'm running a community of on-chain analysts called Pine Analytics. Check it out if you kind of want to learn more about doing on-chain analytics or just want to like learn from the insights of the community. We're currently running weekly bounties on MetricsDAO, so if you want to get paid to look into different things, this week we're looking into gas fees on Ethereum, so it'd be awesome to check out our Twitter and check out some of the bounties we're running.
On my side, so I have a weekly newsletter on Substack that you can actually join. The link is on my Twitter bio. We have a Discord for the community, and I do daily curation on different topics related to crypto. Every day is on a different topic. You can check out my Twitter for more information, and yeah, that's it.
Nice. Yeah. You can just follow me on Twitter. If you have any alpha you want to give me, or if you want to be like one of my friends that exchanges alpha together, just DM me on Twitter. And yeah, thanks for hosting the spaces, guys.
Thank you all. Guys, people in the audience, definitely give these guys a follow. They always got cool content, cool dashboards, interesting stuff going on, good news. So yeah, do check them out. Corio, I'll be checking out your newsletter as well. Found those really interesting. I find newsletters a great way to stay on top of things and like cut through the noise. So that's awesome. Also want to thank you, the audience, for being here, listening in, being part of all this. We're doing these spaces weekly. Next week will be on Thursday. It's already in the comments. So if you like this one, you'll definitely like the next one. It's on BRC20 and Bitcoin ordinals. We actually will have Domo Data on. So he's like the creator of BRC20. We'll have Andrew Hong on. We'll have Tom Wan on from 21 Shares. And we're still working on a couple more. So I think it's going to be really exciting space. I'm super hyped. I got those confirmations right before today's space. So I'm super happy with that. Also follow MetricsDAO for just cool Web3 analytics content and education. We're doing a couple webinars a week from data partners, data providers to show you their tooling that you can work with, what you can use it for, really interesting stuff. We have this weekly Twitter space, and you should definitely check out our Discord if you want to find out more. So thanks again to the speakers. Thank you to the audience, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks.